Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Real Estate Talk TGIF episode 223. We've gone 220 weeks in a row. We had a few extra shows. And today we're really honored to have a great New Jersey real estate professional with us today, Peter Kontrafouris. Hey, Pete, how you doing, man?
Good, buddy. How are you? Thanks for having me on.
I am really excited. We apologize for being late. It's all my fault. Technology, I'm good at it, but I don't prove it that often, though. Anyway, we'll be right back, and we'll get rocking and rolling with Peter Kontrafouris. Real estate agents, are you looking to acquire clients consistently to grow your business and income for a great lifestyle? Well, this is Dave Finale, and I'm here to bring you the Real Estate Skill Builder broadcast, Real Estate Talk TGIF, brought to you by Real Estate Skill Builder and the Modern Agent team. Good morning, and we finally got the new intro. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good. But here we are. Pete, good morning. Good morning. Good morning. You know what? It's nice to have you here. It's great to finally get on after the delay. But that was all technology, my issue. Here we are, man. So you've been in the business quite a while. Well, long enough to know better. Anyway, so the first question I ask everybody on this broadcast, Pete, is really simple. You might know it, you might not know the question. The question is simple. What does TGIF stand for?
Well, thank God it's Friday, usually, right? There you go. Oh, we got the same ringer, but thank God it's Friday.
No, you're very close, though. Thank God it's finale.
Finale?
TGIF, it works. I mean, that means I can do this broadcast anywhere and call it TGIF. But anyway, I digress. So, man, look, you've been in business for a long time. Real estate business came along as a second thing for you. Tell me about where you got started, how you got to be where you are today as a top team in northern New Jersey and New York. Tell me how you got there, where you started, what were your roots?
All right. Yeah. So I got licensed 2015. I decided to get my real estate license my senior year at Rutgers Business School. And like the whole thought of getting like an actual job was scary because I went to school for business, economics and marketing. So I had a good degree and all that stuff. I could have went on a salary position. My goal was like either a large bank or, a big company, Fortune 500 company. So that scared me my senior year more than anything. Started my junior year really bad. And then I'm like, I've always had a passion for real estate, but I didn't know where it was really going to lead to. I really liked more of the investing side of real estate. And just seeing that, like I originally wanted to do like house flips, stuff like that. So I'm like, you know what, let me get my real estate my senior year of Rutgers Business School. And it took off from there. So I graduated late 2014. And then I entered the real estate business 2015. And, slow start, really, really slow start. Completely different market than it is now. You actually had to work very, very hard to make a transaction. And, but truthfully, that taught me a lot. And so when I started, I worked at my dad's restaurant. My dad had a little restaurant and in West Milford, the town now where I live and, where my office is and all that. So we had a little restaurant and, I would make contacts from there. So it was funny because I did real estate part-time and I did the restaurant full-time. So, as you can imagine, 80, 90 plus hour work weeks every single week. So, but I did both. It wasn't like I did part-time real estate. Like I really engulfed myself. It was just a slow start. I mean, I had the time to put into real estate because I would work extra hard, but I feel like it was the restaurant business was hindering me. So slow start, really, really humble beginnings. I had no family in the business, no nothing. Fast forward to 2017, my father decided to retire. The little strip mall we were in decided not to renew our lease. So I went all into real estate 2017. So I really count that as like my first year almost. And my goal was, I always want to do the team, have a company one day, and as I do now, but my goal was be a top agent before doing all that stuff.
Right.
I'm a top agent, become a platinum level producer, do 30, 40, 50 transactions on my own, then worry about helping other people, making their lives better. So, and that's what I did. I started a team late 2019, a little bit before COVID started. Luckily, thank God, because, by myself, I wouldn't have been able to handle that kind of load. So that's what I did. Started a team, and, we have a pretty vast majority of service areas that we cover.
Right.
So we have more specific that we hone in on and focus on. I mean, but we like to joke is we'll go wherever there's a door, we'll go. So that's what we do. And we became one of the top teams in, the northern New Jersey and New York areas, because we're licensed in both. We do New York and New Jersey. So our New York areas are like Orange County area, Rockland a little bit, and Westchester, but mainly Orange County, New York. And then, of course, Jersey, all the major counties, Passaic, Bergen, Hudson, Morris, Sussex, you name it. I mean, we're basically everywhere. And we never turn anybody down. Like, doesn't matter what price range you're in, doesn't matter anything. You're our clients, and you get treated same as everybody else, and we give you white glove service.
So, Pete, if your team had a niche, would there be a niche, or is it, branching out everywhere?
So, I mean, we have a niche in our market. So especially me, because I grew up in West Milford, New Jersey, and my office is here, and I have a lot of contacts here. This is my main niche, lakefronts, but not just lakefronts. I mean, I like to specialize in lakefronts, but we do everything. So I do everything, especially as well. But like, I really can't say we have a niche, because my niche, I feel, is white glove service for everybody. So I wouldn't say we have a niche, but we learn every market that we go into.
Great. So I want everybody to listen to what you just said. We learn every market we go into, because one of the things that I talk to new agents about, stuck agents about, is, look, the way things are now, everybody is our neighbor, right? So actually, if they had a national real estate license, there's a lot of people that would go from New Jersey to Cleveland, Ohio to sell a house. I mean, they're just people that would do it. And the difference between today and 20 years ago is there are people that wouldn't drive 5 miles to list a house, let alone 500 miles, right? Yeah. And that's just what the market was. Like your area of West Milford to where I am in southern Bergen County in the Rutherford area, I would refer it to you. And that's, to me, you're an hour away. Okay. And it's not an easy hour like jumping on a main highway to get to and you're off. It's side roads, highways, it's all this kind of thing. Yeah. So that wouldn't happen. So now with the way we are, everybody's a neighbor. Like California's a neighbor. Everywhere we can do business anywhere, and we all talk about doing that. And the important part is to know your market, to learn the market you're in. So when it comes to learning the market, talk to me about the process you go through to learn the different markets you go to and how you train your agents to do that.
Yeah, so that's a good point. And like, yeah, you're right. When I would think about taking a listing, I think one of my furthest listings was probably like an hour and a half away.
Right.
And yeah, everyone, especially from the town I'm in, my previous brokerage that I was with, they were like, oh, you're crazy going down there, blah, blah, blah. But I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, you know what? If I can drive an hour and a half, realistically, how many times am I going to go to the house? Maybe 3-4 times, you know what I mean? Right. And if I can make 12 to 13 or 14,000 on a deal, I'm going to drive an hour and a half away. You know what I mean? There's people that drive to Connecticut for work every single day. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
So my mindset was like, all right, let me take it. But to answer your question about what we do to really learn the area, we just look at is like if we were buying the house for ourselves. So I think the best way to always do that is look at all the information that's provided to you, on the MLSs, Zillow, all the tax records, deeds, county restrictions, everything like that. But really look at it as if you were going to buy the house. So case in point, I was doing a deal in Nyack, New York. And I'm like, you know what? I don't know much about Nyack, but one of my good friends was moving there. And I'm like, you know what? let me walk into their town hall and let me act as if I'm buying the house. So, the building department gives me their information, the zoning department, the tax department, sanitation department. I'm like, just give me everything because I want to buy this house. Sometimes if you tell them you're an agent, they might not give you the 100% of the time. But I'm like, I really want to buy this house. Give me the scoop on it. Is there anything I need to know? Was there any, contaminated soil from a neighbor down the street? I'm like, I really want to buy this house. I'm a first time home. Like, and I would almost just pretend, you know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
I want them to give me all the information,
Right.
as being like I'm buying it. So I tell everybody on my team to do that. Like, act like you're buying the house for yourself. And then the more you know, the more you're going to be able to give your client, and you're going to do a better service for him. Because at the end of the day, that's what we're here. Like, we're here to get all information and to be basically everybody's punching bag and, I guess therapist, but we're here to provide the value. And that's, in my opinion, that's the way to do it. If they're looking at a property, before we even put an offer in, we have to do all of our due diligence, A to Z.
Right, exactly. So it's. I mean, you just hit upon something that's really important that I always tell people, and all the agents that I've ever worked with before, they say, "Well, I got to go to I got to talk to people at the town. Let me call them up." I always said, no, do not call anybody at a municipal building, at a town hall. Why? You don't know if maybe a police officer picks up the phone, or a custodian picks up the phone. Sure. Or someone else that's not in that department picks up the phone. You don't know who it is. They could give you an answer and you can't run with it. You need to go there, talk to the right person in the right office. Let's face it, just like our business, that's specialized too. They got a person that takes care of the tax collection. They got a person that tells you how much tax you owe. They got a person that says how many bags of garbage you can put out. I'm being facetious, but you know what I mean, right? Yeah. Everything's getting more and more specialized. You need to talk to the right people, depending on your town, right?
Exactly. And to take it a step further too, somebody could tell you anything they want over the phone, and most likely that it's never going to get back to, Jim at the zoning department said we could do this with the property. It's probably never going to get, they might say you could do one thing, and then all of a sudden it changes once the buyer closes on the property. So I take it like sometimes even one step further, and I'll go with the person. I'll say, you know what? I want you to hear it from the horse's mouth. Come with me. I'll go to the zone. Let's take a morning. Let's go there and let's talk to them. And that's how, make them give you printouts. It's just doing a higher level of service. Otherwise, you just calling the town, like you said, you're going to get somebody at the clerk's office that's going to say, okay, maybe you could do this, but that, and the whole story changes, as we all know, once you close on the property. Right,
exactly. So the whole point is to understand what you're allowed to do in the town, et cetera, and you to have a better knowledge of it. And what this does, this builds your knowledge bank, right? This builds your knowledge bank for future transactions in that town, or to be that expert, that consultant as time goes on. The other thing along with that, Pete, is I always tell agents, look, you can find out the numbers on the town, but just by going to the MLS or Googling the town or whatever. But I want you not only to do that, and I know you guys do this, is you drive the town, you drive the area, you find out where the neighborhoods are. Are there, like in New Jersey, we don't have like, oh, you're in that subdivision. Now that's in other states, right? They've got these subdivisions, these developments, which are hundreds of homes. We really don't have that in this area of New Jersey. But it's to understand the market as best you possibly can, which is the most important thing. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. There's no more important thing with you doing your job than knowing the market that you're in. And if you're not familiar with it, get familiar with it fast.
Exactly. And you haven't sold all the homes that you have without doing all that work. Talk to me about, the team. You went from a solo agent to a team. Talk to me about your times as a solo agent and how you got started in building your business.
Yeah, I mean, it was just slow. I mean, my whole thing was like, just, bear through it, get busy, do everything you can, prospect like a beast, make relationships every day. Every agent should be shaking 2 to 3 hands a day, meeting new people, and that's what I would do. I would do all the basics, all the Brian Buffini, handwrite your postcards, send it in the mailbox, all the things from A to Z that you should be doing. So I started doing that. And organically, I grew a team. I didn't grow a team because I was, so busy and, I had all these leads to give out. I grew a team organically. So we were at a large national brand prior. And, it was like, it was good for what it was. But we, the support was barely there. You know what I mean? Like there was
Yeah.
agents coming up to me, asking me questions. How do I do this? How do I do that? And I always helped them because I always said when I started a large national brand and I started a small firm. And prior to that, and there was no support. Like I was on my own. I was researching things. I would watch videos on YouTube, like how to fill out a contract because I felt like support wasn't there. It was very limited. So I had people coming up to me, an older gentleman who lacked in the technology side of the business, and I had a younger kid, fresh out of school. So I had both opposite ends, but they both needed help in their respected, things that they needed help with.
Right.
So they would come to me and I'm like, you know what, let me start a team. Let me take you guys under my wing. I said, if I'm going to help you out, let's try to all benefit from each other. So I took them on my team. I started my team, like I said, late 2019. And it was just very organic. It wasn't like I heavily recruited. It was like, okay, you want help, I'll help you out. Come join me. And that's what I did. And my whole thing was like to provide the value to them, provide the education. And as time went on, I would provide the leads as well. And and that's what we're doing. We're up to 10, myself and 10 other agents now. Some are part-time, some are full-time. And, that's just the model that I've had from the time that I started. Like provide the value, give leads, right, and help them out in any way that I can.
So, all right. So provide value. You started your business prospecting like hell, prospecting like crazy. So, the biggest problem I see with a lot of agents, and one of the things, the most difficult thing is distractions, right? So last week I had Brian Danny on and we talked about the schedule. We talked about, non-interruptions, not getting distracted, et cetera. How were you able to not allow distractions to get in your way? Because you had certain goals, you had certain things you wanted to achieve. What was the process you went through in your prospecting? Just that one thing, which is the most important thing, lead generation in your business.
Yeah. So that's important because as you know, like, especially as you grow, there could be a lot of distractions of the simplest questions and all that stuff to, how do I do this? How do I do that? And yeah, when you're managing that, people like that, you have to be a little selfless and you do have to provide the value, but you also have to remember your own goals as well. Because you have those, you have to maintain those goals because the more you grow, the more you allow your team to grow. So the whole thing, so I have a really great assistant who's been with me like a little over a year now. And that's a big plus for me because I can delegate a lot of the little minor things to him because I trained him personally. So, he's in the office with me every day. He has access to everything I have access to. So my goal was to get him, enriched in all the things that I do and how I do it, most importantly. And he does it. He does them, like soup to nuts fantastically. So that is a big thing. And that was hard for me because delegating, and it's still kind of hard for me. It's like one of my hardest things to let go is delegating. So managing that time, managing the people and not getting distracted is number one, I believe, is delegating. And number two, I believe is time blocking. Everybody knows they have access to me, especially as the day gets later on. There's not many things going on. We're not dealing with our own personal clients at that point. So they have access to me from, basically from 7:30 to, I usually power down around 9. So they have access, there's certain days where I'll tell people, or certain times where you have more access to me than others. And if I can't get to you, I just know that I will get to you. I'll answer your question, but it's going to be at a later time because I don't want to lose focus of what I'm doing now. That's super important. You have to be like that because you can get pulled in all opposite directions, just from your own clients, but from your team members as well.
Right. So how would you say, is there a trick or is it just pure determination and discipline not to get sidetracked during your lead gen period?
It more comes down to discipline. If I'm doing something, let's just say if I'm prospecting from 1 to 3, I'll put in our team group chat, don't contact me from this time. Or if I'm doing a podcast or, something like that, I'll be busy from these hours. So it's just letting people know up front, and also people appreciate that more.
Okay. So you're a solo agent until 2019. You brought a couple agents on to lean on you to go through it. And then as time went on, you were building up more things, and you used a lot of different approaches to your business, sphere of influence, other leads. So talk to me about your lead sources and your lead generation and how you use them.
Okay, so yeah, when I started as a solo agent, I think I paid, which is crazy, you're probably gonna laugh, $45 a month for Zillow and Trulia. And now it's more like 4,500, but that's besides the point. So my thing was, yeah, Zillow used to be cheap. So not cheap, but you know what I mean. And so I did a little bit of that. And I did that as I started the team too, because you kind of have to. But one of the greatest things I always say was social media. I think I've done more business on social media or from social media than anything else that we pay advertisement on. Newspaper. What's a
newspaper?
Yes, I agree with that. So I'm not in any newspapers, just where my main market, where my office is, but because we have a little bit of an older demographic,
right?
In our region,
so
sure. I hit them with old school marketing. So mailers, postcard mailers, newspapers, and of course all the other stuff we do. We do land, sea, and air approach, attack from all angles. In different markets, you're going to have different results with what you're doing based on what demographic is in that market.
Right. So you used the old school of mailing, newspaper. I don't know what that is, but newspaper, Zillow. But one of the things you got started with was your sphere of influence, right? Isn't that how you started?
Sphere of influence, yeah. Every agent needs to lean on sphere of influence tremendously.
So tell me how that worked. What was your process for working with your sphere of influence?
So my whole thing was, I think I spent, I don't remember, 7 days straight just putting every single contact that I've ever had, I've ever talked to, and I've ever come in contact with on an MS Word document, and then I transferred it to my CRM. I think by the time I was done, at the time I had 400 people in my sphere of influence. The key is first name, last name, phone numbers, email address, street address, which is another important thing. And lastly, what I added was social media handles. Every social media handle that they had and all that information. I put that down on an MS Word document and I labeled it my sphere of influence. Then at the time I had Top Producer. Now we use Follow Up Boss. Follow Up Boss is the best. I would never change that for the world. But at the time we had Top Producer, which is a much, much scaled down version of a CRM. And I put everything into there, sphere of influence. And I had all their emails and I had all their addresses, right? So I would hit them with an email, stupid emails like, how to stop your pipes from freezing in the winter
Sure.
time. Or just sold. Look what just sold in your neighborhood, market overviews. And I would also mail them. So you can use any subscription you want. I tend to like Quantum Digital. They're a very good mailing system, but you can use anything. There's, I think, even MailChimp mails, mass mails now. There's, Vistaprint. There's anything. But I would hard copy mail them, and I would email them. Call, text, and email, weekly, periodically, and then all major holidays, birthdays, anything like that. So I heavily leaned into that, and I wasn't afraid to ask people for their help. If they gave me the shot, I cracked it out of the park for them, made them happy with me, and then made them refer me to all their other friends and family. So people want to approach their friends when they're successful, and their friends and family when they're successful. But that's not not necessarily the right approach. You want to approach them when you're getting started, because they could be the hardest people to earn their business, or they could be the easiest because they want to do something for you and they want to help your business grow. So that's what I heavily leaned into.
So, one of the things I hear a lot from new agents, especially, or actually more experienced agents that have not tapped into their sphere of influence, is that, they don't want me to bother them about real estate. And one of the things they say is, who said you had to call them about real estate?
True.
Real estate is what you are. A relationship builder is what you need to be.
Correct.
Right. And I thought I think that's the most important thing when it comes to your sphere of influence. People think, well, the myth is that they don't want to hear from you. They don't want to hear your real estate crap. Yeah, I know. I wouldn't either. If you called me every month and want to, oh, it's you again to talk about real estate. Well, I really don't give a shit. I don't want to hear from you, yada, yada, yada. But if you start calling and say, hey, Dave, how you doing? I was thinking about you today. I drove in your area, yada, yada, yada. And that is a great way to start a conversation.
Absolutely.
Right? And look, here's the thing about today compared to other days, 3 years ago, 33 years ago, conversation, the dialogue has changed. Today's a lot different as our market moves forward and evolves. I'm going to say, with the condition of change, is that no matter what, the dialogue is always going to change. We can use the same idea and script thought from years ago, but the dialogue needs to change. What are we talking about today as compared to what we're talking about then? So we're recording this in September of 2022. The last 6, 7, 8 months have been really interesting in how the market has changed. Talk to me in a shifting market, Pete.
Yeah.
When your sphere of influence or with your lead gen and your prospecting, has anything changed?
So I think it changed in a sense where people like shorter communication. They don't want to get a phone call from you and they want to get talked to for an hour, half hour to an hour. It's a lot of shorter communication, a lot more touches you can do with people, whether it's call, text, or email. But it has to be a lot faster approach. If you're taking too long, you're going to bore somebody, and they know that you're trying to get something out of them. You have to make it a quicker approach. Check in, see how you're doing. But you know what? Like you said, nobody wants to talk about real estate, but everybody likes to talk about money, right? Whether it's crypto, whether it's stock market, or how much their house is worth. People like these conversations, right? So it's a very attracting topic. So it's funny you say that, because most people end up talking to real estate to me, and they're like, oh, you probably hate talking about real estate, but that's your life. You know what I mean? So people, but you're in the right spot when people talk to you about real estate and pick your brain, because that's like, accomplished right there. But everybody does like to know what their house is worth, right? Like, even if they're not selling, I get people all the time, they don't want to sell, right? But they're like, if my house is worth 300 or my house is worth 500, I'd like to know my house is worth 500, because that's in their mind, but they're calculating, their net worth or whatever it is that they're calculating with. So even if you do like a market, like you offer like a market analysis of somebody who has no intentions of selling, they will engage that conversation to know what their home is worth and what their activity is doing. I mean, if the house down the street sold for $750 in a neighborhood that's never seen more than $550, that's a great conversation to have. Like, even if somebody doesn't want to know real estate, that's just an amazing thing to be able to talk about with somebody. That was also COVID market. Now it's descending a little bit, but yes.
So yeah, just to pick up and add on to what you said about, and to go forward with what I said, is that I say that people don't want to hear you call them and talk about real estate, but people always want to talk about real estate.
Yeah.
So to give you an idea of that, to explain that is really simple. When you go, say you went to a party or you went to a function and you're the only realtor there, and you introduce yourself to somebody, hey, I'm Joe. Oh, what do you do? I'm a real estate agent. Great. How's the market? They always want to talk about real estate when they find out you're in real estate. Nowadays, the question might be, hey, when's the market going to crash?
Yeah.
Is there going to be a crash? What's going on with this crazy market, right?
Yeah.
But if you call them, they probably don't want to hear from you, but they always want to talk about it. They always want to talk about something talking about having something to do with money. So, there's lots of ways to call people and talk to them who aren't your friends, who aren't on your sphere of influence, as well as talking to the people on your sphere of influence. And the best way to start a conversation is either you saw something on social media and you wanted to comment on it, or you just hadn't talked to them in a while. Look, it can be an apology. It can be a how you doing. It can be anything. But the one thing I wanted to bring up, and I know you do this a lot, is everything you do with your sphere of influence, the call, text, email, is completely and totally supported by your social media.
Yeah.
Right? Because they're going to, once they see you, they're going to keep seeing you. And you should also communicate with them through message.
Yes.
On Instagram and Facebook. Talk to me about how you've done that.
So I send, I don't really send them like, messages via Facebook.
Okay.
Often. Most of the time, if they're posting stuff, what I'll do is, I'll always comment like, happy anniversary or whatever like that. But then I feel like that's one point touch of getting to them. But then I'll also follow up with a different form of communication, and that might be, a call or a text. Say, hey, I know I said congratulations on your baby on Facebook, but I just want to reach out personally and make it like a little bit more personal. Because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. Like you're actually reaching out because you care, not because you want to get the business off of it. Because really they're complete opposite. Like I reach out to people because I care and I want to congratulate them. And everybody likes that. It's like most of the time when I say this to people, they're not even looking to buy or sell. I just want to. You have to come from a genuine standpoint, and that's what I think I'm seeing a lot of times now. Is people will message somebody based on like, okay, I want to try to benefit off this person somehow, but it's not necessarily the right approach. It has to come from the right place. That's like the most important when you are messaging. Commenting on Facebook and either following up with a call or a text.
Right. And what I like about what you're saying here is that while a DM can be really cool, following up with your sphere of influence through text is more personal than a direct message.
Yeah.
It really will hit home into the heart more than that DM, right? There's all different kinds of systems and processes that we use and we coach on, having to do with DMs, text, etc. Because let's face it, call, text, and email and social is land, sea, and air. You're hitting them every which way you possibly can.
Yeah.
So we talked about prospecting, we talked about social, we talked about everything else. But let's talk about your marketing and stories and how everything is a story for you when you're setting that up. Talk to me a little bit about that.
So like setting a story like on all of my platforms, like the application. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. So I do a lot of posts, but I mean, main thing is like stories of all your posts, and then just stories of other things, throughout the day. And anything you do is content. So whether I'm at an inspection or walking through a nice house, really crappy house, doesn't matter. I'll take video and post everything because, as Bradley says, we are the content, and just put it out there because anything you have out there is going to be then nothing than you have out there. So when you post, as you can see now, especially with all the algorithms on Facebook, Instagram, your engagement goes down. It could be by the day, it could be depending on what day and time you post. But I mean, I'm going to say like sometimes I'll have, like a couple hundred likes on my posts and stuff like that. And then I'll have a couple thousand looking at my stories. So your stories are going to get more people. So you should always be posting, but most importantly as well is posting stories as well, because more people are going to see that on a daily basis. And that's just could be like more of a personal thing. Like, I never separated my business from my personal life and myself. I put everything out there. So you'll see pictures of me doing business and photos and videos. And you'll see, photos of my kids, stories of my kids, wife, family functions, whatever it is, because at the end of the day, that's who you are. And that's who people want to trust you on a business sense. Number one, so you know what you're doing and they trust you. And they want to know you're the expert. And that's super important. But people want to feel you on a personal level too. If you're a shiesty guy and all that stuff, and people know that stuff, like that's the beauty and the curse of social media. Like people want to know they're doing business with a good person that has good values and all that stuff. So I'll talk to realtors all the time. Like, hey, I won't post my kids, my dogs, whatever. But I'm like, they're like, I feel like people don't want to see that. I have more engagement on all of that stuff from a personal standpoint than anything I do business wise. I'll put up business stuff of, a dozen homes we sell. I'll get like a couple congratulations, couple thumbs up, and that's it. I'll post pictures of my kids, my wife, my 2 dogs, and it's like people love that stuff. So you need to connect on a personal basis through stories and posts. Very important posts.
I want everybody to understand that the competition we have on social media for our real estate business is is vast because I think we're all trying to outdo each other. Now, I think that I don't say that personally. I think I don't think that's the direct reason, but I believe that's one of the things they're trying to do because everybody wants to like, hey, look what I sold. I think that's a lot of crap, and I think you should do that. You have to do it from time to time. What would you say to an agent who said, well, you know what? I don't want to put myself out there on Facebook or on social media. I want to have a separate personal account for my business. What would you say to them about it?
It's the worst idea you can think of. It is the worst idea in the world. Like, you need to have one page. Your business is your brand, and you're one person. People, I think it's Warren Buffett. I don't know who says it, but Warren Buffett, I think. People buy people before they're going to buy your goods and services. Right. So if you're looking at a bunch of just solds, you are literally throwing your time and your energy out the door. It all has to be one. I can't believe people ask that question still. And you're right. Like, people ask it all the time.
They just still do. Yes.
Page. Yeah. One page. The only reason I have a separate, like, technically business account on my Facebook is because in order to boost ads through Facebook, you have to have, but it's linked to my Instagram and all that. That's the only reason I have a separate one.
Right. Well, you have to, in order to do ads on Facebook, you need a business page. So that's the reason to have a business page. It still needs to be robust and have content on it that's relative. And you know what? If you got nothing else, just put the same stuff with houses and stuff, but you got to be personal on it as well. Look, here's the thing. I believe if you look at my stuff is probably 90-10. 90 business, 10% personal. I've got groups. I've got pages. I've got several business pages. I've got several groups I work from, right? Yeah. And it's all for different, but the same reason. It all is toward day finale. It's all toward Real Estate Skill Builder, which is the company, right? It's all toward that. And it's as one major thing, and it is helping people. And we all have to understand that one of the other reasons, you said it, was all about personal, right? And when it comes to other things, especially on Instagram or on TikTok, our biggest competition is really simple. And some may like this comment, some may not. It's booties and baby.
Yeah.
You know, that's what our competition is. That's what's going to stop. Oh, maybe a cat video from now and then too. But that's what is going to stop people. And I have proven that with pictures, because I rarely post. You know, I just became a grandfather, so I'm posting pictures from time. I think I posted one or two of my grandson, and it's like I got the most hits on that photo, right? Yeah. Why wouldn't I? It's a baby, right? It's a cute new baby. And everybody's, I think all babies look alike in the beginning, but what do I know? I'm just a callous man. What do I know? But anyway, but it's important to put stuff that will, stop the scroll. And I want everybody also to look at, and you can tell me about your experience with this too. There's so much stuff out there. There's so many people trying to sell you something, this thing, listen to this, watch this. I mean, how many do you see a day of that stuff?
A lot. There's so much of those, gurus, especially right now. It's worse than ever. I feel like, there's all these gurus out there just trying to sell you something or, a lead platform. Like, for instance, we signed on for a lead platform that wasn't even cheap. And I think we gave it a little bit of time because, I always believe in giving them time, but it was like such a racket. And I knew like I should have, I really should have ended them quicker, but I didn't. But it was something I felt like they were up and coming. It was a lead platform. I'm like, let's give it a shot. Maybe they're going to compete with Zillow. And it turned out to be a flop. But, to answer your question, like there's so many of that stuff. And you have to be weary of it on social media. It's running rampant right now.
Right. There's so much of it. You just have to really quickly say no to it from the very beginning and walk away from it. And that's the important part. The same with a lot of email that comes through. Once you go to a site, they may automatically get your information or you click on something. So my suggestion to everybody is if you've accidentally or on purpose joined mailing lists, just unsubscribe as much as you can, or you'll spend 20 minutes a day cleaning out your inbox. And look, that's the last thing you want to do because I want you to read my email when I send you an email, right? That's the important part, right? And you're probably getting mine too. Who knows? But anyway, look, man. You know what? This has been really cool. I want to ask you a couple of quick questions. Number one, you're a new agent getting into the business. What should you be doing?
Okay. So making relationships first and foremost. Most new agents fail in the business because they're not doing this stuff. They're not making relationships and getting out there, meeting new people, right? Attacking your sphere. But another thing is, and really what it sadly comes down to is there's not enough opportunity. Get the opportunities driven to you. So you have to do all the things, but you have to put yourself in a position, whether you're on a team or whether you're in a network of people that can give you leads. That, we could show you what to do all you want, but you got to be in a position where you're getting some type of steady lead flow, because you're only going to be able to do so much. Even like, obviously we've had great success on our sphere and social, but you want to attack all angles and you don't want to just rely on that. So you got to get some type of lead flow going, and you got to start booking. You got to book appointments. Don't worry about how much time it's taking or how much work you're doing. In the beginning of our business, you'll be underpaid for what you do. I promise you that, for a couple of years, and then you'll get to a point where you're overpaid for what you do. So it's getting over that hump, being persistent and just weathering the storm of all the growing pains. And then after that, you'll be fine. But really, a lot of people don't put themselves in a position where they can get leads and get the proper skill building education to build your business and your brand.
Absolutely, 100% correct. And here's the other thing. We talk about production, right? We want you to get into production. There's not one coach, mentor, or trainer that can make you productive.
True.
The idea of a coach is to facilitate the opportunity for you to understand how to be productive. Yeah. That's the difference. No one's going to make you productive. So someone calls you with this new system, or they're going to get you leads, or they're going to do this. It doesn't. If you don't want to do it, if you don't have the ambition, the discipline to do it, even if you pay thousands of dollars a month for a coach, it's not going to work. If you're not doing the work, it's not going to work, right? So, okay, I'm going to ask you one more question about this along the same line. So you're an agent that's in the business for a while, but you're stuck at like doing, 5 to 10 deals a year, and you want to do 20, you want to do 30, you really want to build your income. You're just stuck. You're just not, you're not doing much. What would you say to them?
See what you're doing, and obviously it's doing okay for yourself, but not really. If you want to do, more deals than that, you got to look at what you're doing and then either do the same, do more of that, or approach different angles as well. Keep everything that you're doing, but approach different angles as well. So like, I guess the easiest way I could equate it to myself was like, okay, I'm doing this right now and I have this much, Zillow spend, I have this many team members, and I have I send out this many mailers, and I take every now and then a little small section of the newspaper, right? So I'm like, if I want to do more, let me get a bigger ad in the newspaper, let me run it every week, let me increase my Zillow spend by 1,000, and let me send out, instead of 1,000 postcards, mailers a week or a month, I'll send out 5,000. And like, you have to just, it's all a numbers game. You have to look at what you're doing, and just you have to either take money out of one spot and put it into another that's going to be more effective, or you just have to go more into it. So for me, like, okay, I want to get more listings, I need to send out more mailers. It's all a numbers game. More appointments you book, the more at bats you have, the more income you're going to most likely have once you convert them.
So it's all about doing the work, basically, in both.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. That's secondary. Like, most agents are willing to do the work. It's just like, how do you get the work? That's the more troubling sense, is how do you get the work? So the work is easy, in my opinion. The work, being an agent is hard. It's a lot of things we have to combat with and get the deals done. But hard part is, especially for a new agent, as you asked, is getting the work. And, it's just allocating the proper dollars into spaces that are going to be the most effective. And a lot of it could be trial and error.
Right. Do you think agents get in the business knowing that they're going to have to prospect, or knowing that they're going to have to follow up and chase business? Do you think they get into business with that thought?
No, most of them don't. They don't realize how hard it is. They feel like, even me, I came from the restaurant business. I knew a lot of people, and shook a lot of hands and everything, and people saying that when they were ready, they were going to call me. But, I still had a hard time. So I can only imagine somebody that doesn't know a lot of people, gets into the business, and, really it's hard. Most agents don't think that they're going to have the hard time that they do. And that's why most of them quit. They think like, do I suck at this, or, is this just not for me? And, trust me, I've had the same thoughts. I mean, it was like a 4-month span, probably back, 2016, I believe, like before I really went full time. I put my license in referral. Like, I'm like, maybe I'm just not cut out for this sales thing. It's just not for me. And I know a lot of people, like, my family and my wife's family and, the restaurant, we know a lot of people in this area, especially my area. And I'm like, you know what? It's not working. So people don't realize how hard it is. Like, a kid told me the other day who was just getting started. He's at another company. He's like, I wouldn't wish my first year on anybody as what I'm experiencing in real estate. Like it's a very challenging field to get going in. People need to trust you, and they want to know that you know what you're doing. And
yeah, absolutely. And that's where the help comes from you knowing what you're doing and giving as much as you can and helping people. There's a thought as things are changing and evolving and how we run our businesses and how we do it is to work leads and have agents do leads a little bit differently. When the internet first came out and online leads started, yes, I was around for them. And yes, I bought Google AdWords where I was spending 5 cents or less for Hasbrook Heights real estate. Right? That's probably like $5-10 now for a keyword, right? Anyway, my point is this. We've been giving out leads for that many years to agents. And sometimes the agents will say the leads suck. And sometimes the broker will say they're just not working the leads.
Right.
So the question I have with the agents not working the leads, is that why they got into business? Is that why they don't work the leads? Is it this funny thing I heard, you can't judge a fish by his inability to climb a tree.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think that's it, where they don't want to follow up on leads? That's not what they got into business for? They just want to show houses?
Yeah. I think that's a big problem. But you can only show houses, as I tell everybody. I'm like, you can only show houses if you're working the lead and you're following up with the lead and you book the appointment. So book the appointment, to go back to what we were talking about before, the key thing is book. Like no lead sucks. You know what I mean? Like we had one lead that somebody was like, oh, how do I delete him off of our CRM? And I'm like, we never delete anybody off our CRM. We might put them in a different category, but we never get rid of them because they might not be ready now. And they might be classified as a dud now. But you know what? In like 5-10 years from now, if you're hitting them even once a year, they might say to you, oh my God, like this guy literally has followed up with me for 3 years. Like, you know what? I am ready now. And, he was following up with me when nobody else has. So no lead is crappy. They just might be at a different point in their life. They might not be ready to buy in 30 days. But you know what? At some point, they might be able to do something. So we never get rid of anybody. And yeah, that is a big problem where I feel like, a lot of our job is prospecting. Like that's the majority of our lead generation is prospecting and getting these leads to work with you. And if you think it's just like, okay, you're going to get one call and you're going to show them a house, it's dead wrong. You got to follow up, follow through, and follow back and keep doing that over and over again until you book that appointment. And once you book an appointment, keep booking them. And hopefully at some point you'll get them closed.
Yes, and I do know where that saying came from, but I'm not going to mention it now. But that is a great thing. Follow up, follow through, follow back. You've got to do that.
That's my favorite. That's my favorite 3F rule. It's follow up, follow through, follow back. If you're not doing that, you're not going to book appointments. If you're not booking appointments, you're not closing.
Absolutely, 100%. That is a great line to complete what we're doing here today, man. I want to thank you so much for coming on. It was great information. I hope that a lot of agents that either watch this live or will watch it replay will understand that there's a lot more to and a lot less to the difficulty of this business, because I think we overcomplicate it sometimes, but I don't want to oversimplify my thought of overcomplication. Now that just screwed everything up. But anyway, man, I want to thank you so much for coming on the broadcast. Two things.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Two things really quick. Number one, what can I do, day finale, to help you, Pete, grow your business? What can I do to help you grow your business?
Just keep in touch, man. Keep in touch. Keep the relationship going. Obviously, we got a great relationship as it is. We got a great network, and just keep doing you. Just keep doing what you're doing because you're great.
Great. So I just want to let everybody know that Pete will be on stage in a couple of weeks, September 28, 2022, at LT Restaurant in Hackensack. We have the Fuel Your Fire Mastermind coming up, and we got some great speakers there, including Mr. Kontrafouris himself. So one other thing, man, I know you came on the broadcast and you wanted to know.
Yes, please. I need one of these.
The hat is coming, man. The hat is really coming. Thank you so much for coming on. Please stay on for a minute as we end the broadcast. And everybody, we got next week, we have the great Brandon Mulrennan coming on, founder and CEO of ReverseSelling.com. Brandon will join us and talk about his coaching, talk about how he helps agents. If you don't know him, look him up. He is one of the real down-to-earth coaches there is. So I look forward to seeing everybody next week, Friday, September 23 at 11 a.m. Eastern. So we'll see you next week. As I said, please stay on for a second, and we will be right back with you, that is, Pete.
Yeah.